Hi everyone and welcome back. Unfortunately, most people think that schools and universities give you an education and that will give you a foot in and help you get ahead in your life. That'll help you build a future. But school was never actually about real education. School and university is about conditioning, compliance, obedience, and most importantly, trust in the system. We're taught from the very beginning when we start our school back in prep. Sit down, be quiet, wait your turn, ask permission, raise your hand, repeat the answers that we have given you, and then you will receive approval. Well, unfortunately, that is not learning. That is not education. That is training. That's very different. And once you see that, everything else that's going on in this world right now that doesn't make any sense will all of a sudden begin to. The confusion, all of the obedience, the fear, the compliance, the hostility when people hear alternate opinions, the inability to reason or to think for themselves. People, this was not by any means an accident. This is very much deliberate and very, very carefully designed. So let me start here in this video. Most people believe school is so necessary and it exists to create, informed citizens, but it does not. Modern education exists or was created to produce manageable populations. That is its primary function. That always has been in modern education, its primary function. And so mass education in this form, in the form that we know it, is actually, believe it or not, extremely new. See, for most of history, if you look back through history, human beings used to learn by going out and doing, by building, by working, being out on the job, by thinking, by learning to use their brains, by failing, by making mistakes, and then by adjusting. Not by memorizing the approved answers or listening to the person up the front. See, the current model only emerged not from real curiosity, but from industrial need, industrialization. We had factories, and factories needed people in there to work, to do as they were told. Governments needed order. Armies needed obedient soldiers that would do as they were told. So school, or the system itself, was rebuilt. And it wasn't built around truth or anything to benefit the individual, but around control. Look at the structure. What do we have? We've got the school bell. We've got schedules and calendars and diaries. We've got a uniform curriculum. Age grouping, everyone's separated into age groups. Standardised testing. Right, this actually mirrors the factory floor. Bureaucracies, military hierarchies. See, the thing is, you're trained early to associate authority with correctness, and disobedience, or asking a question, with danger. See, this training does not end at the graduation, on the graduation day. It follows people well and truly into their adulthood. That is why so many grown adults, who are actually probably very intelligent, still go and seek permission, still defer judgment, that still outsource their thinking to experts or to whatever the scientists might say. They still panic when authority itself is actually questioned. Look at all of our politicians. You tell me, how on earth did they get there? How is it that our country is literally run by fools? Why is it that we allow it? See, the system itself helped this happen because it does not create thinkers, it creates rule followers. And then it labels these rule followers educated. And this is why the term credentials is confused with intelligence, two different things. Memorization with understanding, compliance with wisdom. Real thinking itself is messy. It is quite slow, actually, and it's often very, very uncomfortable because it requires you to risk being wrong, and often that could be publicly. It requires often standing alone and separating yourself from the crowd. That is why most people will just avoid this entirely. Not because they are incapable of thinking or because they're stupid. It's got nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the fact that thinking costs. It can cost you your status. It can cost you your certainty, your position in society, if you like. It can cost you your sense of belonging. So, logically, most people are going to choose comfort. And the system is there to reward them for it well and truly. See, over time, this produces a society that's full of highly trained, yet very low agency individuals. People who believe things, they just blindly believe things, not because there's any truth or they have any proof that there's any truth, but because they were certified, maybe. This is why beliefs collapse under pressure. They were never earned. There was no thought put into it, no standing apart, and they were installed instead, provided by someone else. And when you challenge them, you're not debating ideas, you're threatening identity. You're threatening their identity. And that is why the reaction is often negative and quite emotional. People do get quite upset. They'll get angry. You'll often see people will get defensive, hostile even. See, thinking people and a thinking society do not behave that way. A conditioned society does. They're inclined to fly off the handle if anyone says anything any different. Only a small minority, sadly, ever notice the real pattern. They see the contradictions. They're very clear. They are going to start questioning some of the incentives. What's going on here? They realise that authority, unfortunately, often guesses, and confidence is frequently mistaken for truth. Again, two very different things. Now, these people that think are not special. They're just simply a little bit different in the fact that they're willing to be uncomfortable. They're willing to be uncertain. They're willing to ask questions. They're willing to be misunderstood if necessary, because that's often going to happen. Most are not. So here we are today. So today we have a society that's educated, credentialed, informed, but yet it's unable to think. And this is not really an education crisis as such, but it definitely would have to be falling into a category of a thinking crisis. See, real education, it begins only when you stop seeking permission, when you stop confusing approval with truth. Approval does not always equal truth. When you learn to sit with discomfort and then still be able to reason anyway. See, the system does not need you to think. In fact, it discourages that entirely. It doesn't want you to think. But if you want to understand the world really, you have no choice, because no one else is actually going to do it for you. That's the reality. I want to thank you for watching. Thanks for joining me in today's video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. If you thought this was good and useful, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, I look forward to seeing you soon.